Now, just really quickly, I want to touch on a couple of key things about Todd's background. Todd, as I mentioned, is an internationally recognized educator. He's got over 15 years of experience and is an active investor. He has successfully mentored thousands of creative real estate and tax lien and deed investors. And he was actually, I don't have it listed, but he was actually the top consultant for one of the largest training companies in the world on tax lien and deed investing. So he's very, very qualified to talk to you today about these strategies. He was also the director of a nationwide team of 45 real estate coaches for national real estate investors, and was the VP of Investor Development for Nouveau Riche. Through his experience, Todd has developed an international network of experienced real estate investors and lifelong friends. So, on that note, let's jump into how our clients have been able to get such amazing results in their businesses. Todd, can you go ahead and go over that for us?
Absolutely. Thanks for that. For those that are on the call, we're going to get into foreclosable liens. And a lot of people understand what a lien is, what a deed is. We'll get into that. But if you'll write that down, we're going to be talking about foreclosable liens. And so why tax liens at all? Well, you need to find something that you can do that is like a recipe you can follow. That it's something that's easy to follow, it's sustainable, it's duplicatable, it's repeatable, that you can do over and over again, and it doesn't need to involve the banks. And that's something I was looking for back when the banks crashed. I wanted to get involved in something that I knew that real estate worked. I knew that it was a viable vehicle, but I wanted to be able to have these characteristics and not involve the bank. And so I stumbled onto tax liens at the time, and I really haven't looked back. Tax liens and deed investing. So for those that know me and my background, they know that I worked for an organization as one of the lead coaches there, that, as you mentioned. There's a lot of people out there that want you to get involved in wholesaling or various aspects of investing. But as you know, it's very challenging right now. There's a lot of competition in all aspects of real estate. Inventory has become more sparse or scarce, and especially finding deals that you can get well below 50 cents on the dollar or less. You're not going to find them out there. It's a seller's market, and they're dictating the value of the properties, and they're also dictating the frequency of the sales. And so it's very difficult to find properties that you're going to get at that 50 cents on the dollar or less. What are the benefits of tax lien investing? Well, in my opinion, it's something that you can say free. You have the freedom to say yes to, but just about anything. You don't have to say no. You don't have to turn down the opportunity. These are just the whys. This is what really motivates us to get us out of the bed every day to do tax lien and deed investing or any other type of investing. Life gets in the way a lot of times. You might have a job that you're working at that you want to get away from, but these are the things that are going to really be the differentiators that are going to motivate you to keep doing the tax lien and deed investing, because it's not something that everybody cares to do or knows how to do, and it is a little bit tedious at times. We're going to show you how to break through and eliminate that tedium, eliminate all the problems that normally you would have with tax lien and deed investing that you'd associate with it. We're going to show you how to get past those. So this is just indicating what's holding a lot of people back. When we talk to people about why they're unable to pull the trigger and why they don't move forward, they come up with so many different fears. But it could be the fear of failure, or on the opposite side, it could be the fear of success, fear of unknown or fear of loss. And this we run into a lot is just a lack of knowledge. People don't know what they don't know, and so they get involved in the process, and they touch a lot of hot stoves, and they get burned. And all it takes is a few hot stoves that you touch, and you're not going to be in this industry very, very long if you don't know how to avoid those types of hot stoves. So we feel very strongly that we will give you all the knowledge, tools, and training you need so that you can avoid those hot stoves. This just talks about, real briefly, the first three is what most investors are familiar with: tax liens, tax deeds, and redeemable deeds. But we're going to show you about a little known strategy on foreclosable liens and how you can foreclose on liens that are past the redemption period. So write that down, foreclosable liens. We're going to talk about that in detail. Here's just showing you that if you look at it, about half the states are deed states, half the states are lien states. There's a smattering of hybrid and lien and deed states, and then there's some redeemable deed states. Most investors, they focus on the tax deeds. That's where they're focused because they've been told that if you go after the tax liens, there's a high likelihood that you won't get the property. Well, we're here to show you ways that you can turn that idea on its head and focus on the tax liens certificates. And I would say 6 or 7 times out of 10, you're gonna end up with the property, and you're gonna end up with the property post haste. You're gonna end up with the property immediately instead of having to wait anywhere from 6 months to 3 years for that property to expire. This just gives you the definition of what a tax lien is. The tax lien is the first position lien on a piece of real property due to delinquent property taxes. And that's what it is. You just get a piece of paper. You get a certificate. You get a tax lien certificate. It's typically issued by the county, and it just represents how much they will guarantee that they'll pay you on that lien that you have. Here's typically what happens. A property owner, they are paying their taxes to the county, and at some point they neglect to pay those taxes, and that money was going to the police, the fireman station, the roads and infrastructure and schools. But when they can't pay that, obviously, then and that dries up, then the county slaps lien on their property, and they bring in an investor like yourself, and they have you pay that, and you get the certificate, okay? And then you get the check. In this point, if it's 18% guaranteed, that's then you'll get that 18%, anywhere from 10 to 18%, sometimes a little higher depending on the county you're in. But that's a very good solid return on your investment. But as you'll see, even on a home that's a relatively nice home, a $200,000 home, $2,000, if you're getting 18% on it, you do the math, that's only about, with principal and interest, that's $2,360 annually. That's not going to break the bank, and that's not something that's going to be that's a get-rich-slow plan, especially if you only have a few $1,000s to invest over time. So here it is. It's just showing again that Joe neglects to pay the county. And typically, if it's a deed sale, then the investor is going to be able to get that from the county free and clear. He'll pay for it and get the deed free and clear. Well, what if you could have the ability to get that same property from Joe for the price of the lien and foreclose on it? But typically, as I mentioned, it takes 6 months to 3 years before you can foreclose on those properties. How'd you like to be able to foreclose on them immediately and take ownership today? This is just showing you that if you had $5,000 to invest in an IRA or 401k, that $30,000 is what you would come up with after a solid 30 years, if you had 30 years to invest. If you had that same 30 years to invest at 16%, you would make over $400,000. In Ohio, at 18%, over 30 years, you would make over $700,000. And if you were in Texas, at 25% every 6 months on a penalty, you would be able to manage to make over $4 million. But that's just showing you the power of investing in tax liens over time. But what if we don't have time? What if, like you're like myself, where I'm in my 50s, I don't have another 30 years that I want to be waiting for that to mature or materialize. I want that money now. So it just it shows you here a tax deed, what a tax deed is, and a redeemable deed. A redeemable deed is pretty much like a tax deed. It's a hybrid, if you will, between a tax lien and a tax deed. And the owner has the ability within a year or two to come back and pay a very high penalty and pay off their delinquent property taxes and get their property back. But imagine if you could have the benefits of all three combined without the drawbacks. And that's when the foreclosable liens come in. I want people who are on this call, go Google foreclosable liens. If you contact us and we can send you a bunch of information on foreclosable liens, you'll see how viable these are and real and valuable. And we'll show you some real world cases of them also. But imagine if you could have the ability to buy properties for the price of a lien, so 5, 10 cents on the dollar, but get the deed, ownership immediately, and not have to worry about the owner coming back on you in the next year or two and getting it back. So that's why I put that up there, is that the foreclosable liens has the ability to trump all of those. Let's get into the training, though, before we talk too much about the foreclosable liens. I want to make sure that you guys have some websites and some idea of what to do. If you're doing these 4 things, guys, finding properties, vetting the area, evaluating the property and verifying the property and pulling the trigger, if you're doing this over and over again, it doesn't take 14 steps. It doesn't take 20 steps. It doesn't take 32 steps or even 6 steps. There's really 4 areas that you need to concentrate on. Now, there may be some things that you can check off the boxes in between there, but if you're doing these 4 solid things, you're well on your way to making a very solid decision in tax liens and deeds. First is finding. As investors, we pour through a lot of lists, right? Well, what if you could minimize the lists you pour over and get some very targeted lists that had these viable, valuable properties we're talking about? That's what we want to be able to get into your hands. However, right now, there are organizations that will provide you with a lot of lists. They'll provide you with auctions and calendars and events and what they call opportunities or deals. But as you pour through them, you find that it's very tedious. Again, you're pouring through property after property, list after list, and not finding anything. Well, contrary to what's happening with our investors, we have some very new investors that are coming in, and they're finding 5 to 8 to 10 properties immediately. We have one investor that's found over 35 properties that she's currently looking to foreclose on, and again, she can't foreclose on all those, so she's looking to utilize some of our private lenders in the alliance so that she can secure those properties. Imagine putting yourself in that type of position. That's what we feel we can do with you very quickly. These are just some websites I want to leave with you so that you know where to go to. The most sought after websites when you're looking for tax liens and deeds. Bid for Assets, one of them. You look up there, they have the county tax sale. They also have a dollar no reserves homes. Now, the reason I bring that up is not because those are not tax liens and deeds, but I have a lot of students that have gravitated to that, and they've been able to find some properties they got into at a very low cost. And as long as you're finding out what mortgages and liens are still against that property, and you can go in and get them on the no bid process. If you look at the top right corner, that's something that I hadn't noticed before. Tax lien foreclosures, hundreds of properties, low minimum bids, bid today. Guys, I'm telling you, tax lien foreclosures are the way to go. And being able to and get not even bid on them today. What if you could just, like in Costco, go through a list and check off all the ones that you want to buy and go to the checkout counter and buy them? That's the kind of service we want to provide for you. Grant Street Group, again, it's just showing you that they're out there in droves. There's hundreds of properties, and this is just in a couple of counties in Florida. So there's a lot of opportunities. We'll show you where the best watering holes are or fishing holes are, and we'll point you in the right direction. Real Auction. Again, most people, when they go to these sites like realauction.com, they'll focus on the deed sales. And if you've been on some of these sales or these auctions that go on, it's highly competitive. It's really a madhouse, and they overbid on those properties. This is just showing you that Arizona and Colorado, they have a lot of liens. This is where the banks and institutions, all the secondary market, this is where they throw their millions of dollars around these types of properties here. So realauction.com is a place that you can go. All right, let's get into it. Vetting is a very important part. Whether you do this first and then look for properties, or you do this after you've got some lists, you need to know about that area. And these are typically the types of things you're looking for. Write this down. Take the time to write it down. But population, it should be over 100,000 or more in a county. Demographics, you want to make sure that you understand what type of people buy in that area. You need to know the types of of people you're dealing with in those areas, because that can very much dictate how fast these properties move, and if if you're flipping them or fixing up and flipping them, or if you're going to actually end up cash flowing them. Also, crime and economics in the area, schools, how good they are or how bad they are, and livability in that area. That can all be determined with a few websites that we're going to show you right now. So go to the next slide. NACO, if you look at this is very interesting. 98% of the U.S., just based on population alone, is pretty much off limits. There's no reason to be investing anywhere unless you're investing along the west and east coasts, down along in Texas, and then Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and then throughout Ohio and the Great Lakes area. I mean, if you look, there's not a lot of places that you need to go to find the types of properties and population levels that we're looking for. But if you take tax lien states and you overlay it to this type of population, then you can really start to hone in on the type of properties that we're talking about, these foreclosable liens. Okay, go to the next one. NetR Online. Guys, I live here. This has access to 4 databases that are critical to your success. You can go to NetR Online and go to Public Records. There's a tab that says Public Records, and you'll bring up this map of the United States. You hover over this map, and you can just click and drill down on any state, or if you don't know where the state is necessarily, you can also go below to the alphabetical order there. Click on Alabama or Arizona or Florida, Georgia, and it will bring it right up. Once you're there, you're going to drill down into the county. So make sure you know what counties you're going to be looking at. Once you're in the county and drill down the county, you're going to come to a number of databases at that county. There's 4 databases, and I want you to write this down. The first database would be the assessor database, and that's where the property card is on the property, all the information on the property. The next one would be the recorder's database, and that's where they record all of the liens and deeds and everything against that property is at the recorder database, and that's where you can do a property search. An owner name search, and that's typically you're doing a title search at that point. When you take an owner name and go to the recorder's office and look up anything recorded under that name, you're basically doing a title search, and you can save hundreds of dollars just doing that. So the assessor site, the recorder site, the next one would be the tax collector site, and then the last would be the GIS mapping system. And the GIS mapping system is important because it shows you exactly the property you're looking at. There's no guessing. Whereas if you look it up on Zillow or Google it, Google Maps, a lot of times they don't even show or display the correct property in the picture, and it can be very misleading. I've actually had students that went to auction and they were looking at a property. They had not used GIS mapping, and they ended up looking at a property that it was around the corner. It wasn't even the same property. So it's a good thing they figured that out, and they went to look at the house before the auction. It was a live auction. They went to look at the house, and they realized that the house that they were looking for was actually in the cul-de-sac around the corner. And they were able to readjust and get the information and make a good call on that property. Otherwise, it could have been a very, very disastrous opportunity for them. So NetR Online is a great place to do that. Wikipedia, a lot of people poo-poo this site because they think that, well, the information on there is not something that is reliable or that you can write a paper or dissertation on. But if you look at it, it's really there to give you just an overview of, again, demographics, a little history lesson, population, education, the libraries, and even the types of business in the area and schools. It's just a really good overview, so that when you're talking to realtors and handymen or general contractors in the area, anyone that you talk to in the area, they feel like you really do know the area. You may have only spent 5 minutes on this page, but guaranteed, if you start having informed conversations with people in the area, they will treat you a different way because they will feel like you know that area like the back of your hand. City data is one that I still use, but not as much. They've changed it quite a bit. They don't use the same data that I was using for my spreadsheet to analyze the property. So I've gotten a little bit away from this, but the other reason I don't spend a lot of time here is because there's just so much information here. Engineers love this site because they can just spend hours pouring through all the different graphs and charts and tables and all the information. But it's really something where you could lose yourself. And, you've heard of analysis paralysis. This is a place where that can happen. But there still, regardless, if you understand the types of data that you can get here, it can be very, very a very informative site. USA.com is probably my go-to site, one of my go-to sites. I'll show you the other one coming up. But to get population and growth and density, to give you a map of the area, to show you the amenities in the area, it's a very good site to get all that. You see at the top they cover population and income, careers, housing, education. One of the things they do is hot rankings. The place that I go to is richest and poorest. The reason why is there's a strong correlation between a city that's on the richer side, higher income levels, and having better infrastructure and better schools and better police forces, lower crime, more amenities. There's a strong correlation when you start looking in those areas. So if you can go to a state that is a lien state, and then you can drill down on some of the top states by that are the wealthiest, and again overlay that with the liens. You're looking for liens. I picked on Port St. Lucie here because there's a lot of good opportunities there, but this is just giving you an idea where you can get a lot of good information on USA.com. I love Area Vibes, guys. Go to areavibes.com and put your address in there and look at your address and tell me if it doesn't make sense, the types of things you'll find there. I apologize. For some reason, I just lost the webinar, so I don't know if we're still on it, guys. I apologize. For some reason, Brian, I can't see the webinar. Do you have the webinar?
Yeah, we're still on, Todd. We're still on.
I must have hit. Oh, there. I apologize. I hit something on my mouse and I bumped to another tab. So yeah, I didn't even see this page. So yeah, Area Vibes. If you click on the different grades, if you click on those tabs with the grades, it'll actually go in and show you on the amenities. It shows you all the amenities in the area, the cost of living. It's going to show you the crime rates and why they give it a B+ based on the crime in the area, the education, the schools. But I would just ask everybody, go in and look, and you can see why this Port St. Lucie, why I feel like that's a really good area, because other than the A+ weather, they're pretty good. They're pretty solid across the board. There's not any D's or F's in there, and they're pretty good areas overall. So Area Vibes. Evaluate. Guys, this is my funnest part because I have a spreadsheet, and I'll give you, if you take the time to get a consultation with us, I'll give you a free updated version of my spreadsheet. But this thing, I love it because it really helps me dial in and know exactly how much I can spend on a property, how much I stand to make, and how much it's worth. And it's a very informative tool. And these are the types of areas that I go to. Besides going to Google or Googling the address, Zillow, ePraisal, again, city data, HomeSnap, Total View Real Estate, Google Maps, GIS mapping. These are the tools that you'll use over and over and over again as you use my spreadsheets. So if you look over on the left-hand side, that's where you plug in like Zillow, ePraisal, all the different sites there, HomeSnap, Total View Real Estate. That's just empirical data that I want you to enter in so that you can see the highs and the lows. And then in the middle of the spreadsheet, you'll see where it calculates the price per square foot and calculates the fair market value. Then over on the right side, you can actually delve into your expenses, and then based on the expenses you have, you'll be able to pinpoint what you can sell it for and what your expected profit is after it's all shakes out. And you'll see down there that I look to target at least $20K minimum per deal. That should be very, very easy to attain, anywhere from 20,000, 40, 60, even 100K up. Those are the types of deals that we'll have you involved in over and over again. This is Zillow. If you've been to Zillow, the only thing I would say about Zillow is they're typically on the high end. Anybody who uses Zillow, I wouldn't use them just alone because you're typically going to overinflate the value. Maybe not by much, but sometimes as much as 15 or 20K, and that can be really misleading. So Zestimate is a great place to go and get that Zestimate at Zillow. This is Trulia. Trulia was actually bought out by Zillow. They're not the best place to get information today on property values, but they do have a very excellent crime map, and that's what I wanted to show was the map they have on there. By putting in your address, you can pull up a map of the area, and it shows you the date and type and description of what went on in there and how many offenses there were. And then based on that, it'll give you a little heat map, if you will. It'll show you, the safer areas are green, obviously, and the less safe areas will go to the orange or even the red. And that's going to be helpful from just a sheer crime perspective. If there's a lot of crime in that area, you might want to rethink buying that property, no matter what the value is or how much you're getting for it, because you might not be able to sell it very quickly if it's in a war zone. Eappraisal, they're on the low end. If Zillow's on the high end, they tend to go low. But if you look here, it's not that far off. It's maybe $8,000 is all. But this is what I call a two-for site because you get both of them. You get Zillow and Eappraisal in this instance by putting that in. So you'll be able to put that in my spreadsheet, and you can see that it's about a $290,000 to $300,000 property based on just those two sites. But let's keep going. HomeSnap. I will take HomeSnap, and I'll take that mid-score right there, that 297. That's a pretty solid score that you can take the bank. HomeSnap is pretty good at determining on that mid-score what the actual value of the property is, and they're great. So you make sure you're using HomeSnap. Total View Real Estate, this is what I would call a three-fer, because if you look at it, that same property, if you went to Total View Real Estate to begin with, you've got three different guesstimates there, if you will, or estimates. They're estimating 189 and 445, and Eappraisal, the same as Eappraisal in the number there, and Zillow, that same number's there. So by getting to Total View Real Estate first and putting in that same address, you can get all three data points with one on one website. So it's a great place to get all three of them. Oh, before I get into the verify, findcompsnow.com. I want you to write that down because instead of USA.com, which I don't use anymore, I use the Find Comps Now, and that's a great way to get that other data that you need to break down the price per square foot and how much they sold for, so that you can determine the fair market value. So Find Comps Now is the place that you'll want to plug that in, and that's actually in the new spreadsheet. So just to ask for the new spreadsheet, you'll have that information there. This is the place, though, guys, that people get wrapped around the axle. This is where I see so many people, they biff it. They get right to the very end, and they don't know how to verify the data, or they don't take these steps to verify the data, and these could be some real game stoppers here. So the first thing you need to know when you're working with any county is how to buy the lien. You need to understand the process. Is it online, live, or over the counter? How do you get a hold of it, and do you pay cash? Can you wire them money? These are the things that you need to know up front immediately, and the more you know about that, the reason why is because as you're finding properties, there are other people out there that may see these also. It's not as bad as the competition that you normally have, but you don't want anybody to get in the way of you and getting that property. So the quicker you can ascertain the process and how to get it, the better your chance you're going to have of landing these properties. Also, I touched on title search. I've had people that have paid the $50 to $200 for a title search. However, you can save yourself that money by going into the recorder's office, using the owner name, and searching for liens. And that's basically a title search. That's really all they're doing is the same type of information. They're just taking that information, putting it into a nice PDF file, and they're charging you that $50 to $200 for that information, where you can just do it like I'm asking you to or telling you to through the recorder site. And you'll be able to see the existing liens and mortgages on that property. Here's at the very end, this is where people, again, they neglect to do these things, and these are game stoppers. You need to call the city and make sure that the property is not on a demolition list. That happens a lot in, say, Arkansas, that the property's there, but it's really a scraper, and the county the city's already condemned it. If that's happened and it's on a demo list, good luck with that, because more than likely you just overpaid for the dirt, because they will scrape that off Mother Earth, and you're going to be stuck with a property that you overpaid for if you didn't take the time to understand that whether or not it was on a demo list. And that's just a quick call. Also, the code violations. That's really important, because what happens is when homes get abandoned and the city will start assessing code violations because they need to go in and mow the lawn and keep the grounds up because they just get overrun. I've seen instances where they have assessed $100 a day on these code violations, and that can rack up really quickly. So we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. So I had two students that had similar situations, but one had didn't call the county. He went ahead and bought the property, got the deed, and after the fact found out that there was $10,000 worth of code violations on the property. And they basically, when he went to negotiate that off, they said, "No, thank you. You owe us. We've been mowing that for a year, and we need our money. We need our revenue back." And they wouldn't budge. And so he lost $10,000. Now the good thing is he had still bought it right. So instead of making about $40,000 on it, he only made $30,000 because after he paid the city. However, I had another student, similar situation, but he called and found out that it had code violations on it, and basically told him, "Guys, I'm not going to buy the property. I'll put it back on the rent rolls, and I'll buy the property, but I'm not going to invest in the property if you're going to hold the code violations over my head." And so they negotiated with him and said, "Look, if you buy the property and come in and clean it up within 30 days, then we'll take off those violations, and you won't have to pay the $10,000 fine." And that's exactly what he did. He came in, he bought it, and saved himself the $10,000 on that. So that's an important step that most people overlook. Property value with a local realtor. This is where I would engage a realtor. You don't really need to be engaging realtors that much, because we'll show you how you can buy properties and get rid of properties without a realtor. But if you are to engage a realtor, that's great. Just make sure that you're using them for the right purposes. And this would be a point where you want to engage, I call it the rule of three. You want to engage 3 realtors and or 3 contractors, because if you get 3 people to give you a CMA or a free estimate, then you're going to be able to triangulate a lot better and get an idea. You know, you might have one come in low, one come in high, and one right in the middle. But then you have some talking points, and you can justify and see if the price that is on my spreadsheet, for example, jives with the CMAs. And if they don't, you have some very interesting talking points, and find out why it might be different. Also, on the rehab costs, it's great to call Home Depot. If you would call Home Depot and talk to their red desk or their professional desk and ask for 3 contractors and have them just go by and give you a free estimate. Even if people are in the property still, and especially if it's an abandoned, that's even easier. But even if people are in the property, they can still go by that property and look at the roof and the foundation, and maybe even get a peek inside to see if a bomb's gone off, if it needs some renovation inside. But they can at least give you a ballpark and give you an idea of how much money you're probably into it if you were to buy it. Now, you're not going to rehab the property. There's no reason or any way that anybody that's half a nation away, I wouldn't ask them if they were, unless, even if they're in the same state, I wouldn't want you to get involved in the rehab at the state because there's no reason to. If you do the numbers on my spreadsheet and you put the numbers in as if you are allowing for a rehab, now you know how much money you're going to make when you flip it to a contractor in the area. And that's the best thing I can ask you to do is just get rid of it. Get rid of it, flip it fast, rinse and repeat. That's going to be the best way to do it. Realtor.com is a great place to find realtors. Also, Dexknows, DEXKNOWS, Dexknows.com. Or just Google it. You can Google a zip code and Google a realtor, and you'll find local realtors in the area. There's one other site. Go to the next slide. This is a site that most people aren't aware of, but I would definitely bookmark this one, CIAS.com. It stands for Certified Investor Agent Specialist. These people, they really know, they're investor friendly, they're investor savvy, they know what you're looking for, and they know that it might be a little bit of time and effort working with you, unlike some of the vanilla deals they'll do with selling a pretty home to a family. But they're prepared for that, and they're probably investors themselves. So they can be very savvy and they're very helpful to help you in your area. So most people are not aware of the CIS, but definitely look at that. Also, LandWatch. The reason I put LandWatch in here is because we do find a lot of land, guys. There's a lot of parcels of land out there in Arizona and Colorado and Florida that are on golf courses. They're nice pieces of dirt. They're between $250,000 homes. And this is a great place to be able to go out and look at your property. If you were to buy a property, and you can buy property for as little as $50. I had a student that bought he bought a lien on a piece of property in Arizona for $50. It was on a golf course between two $500,000 plus homes, and so he saw us for $50. He thought, what the heck? I'll just buy it and see if I could even do it. Well, he bought it, he got it, and it was redeemable. I mean, it was already past the 3 years, and so he was able to foreclose on it. Well, come to find out that the owner had passed, and so they didn't challenge it. And the family, they didn't want anything to do with the property. They viewed it as a liability. They were out of state. They didn't want a property in another state that they might have to pay taxes for. They had no inclination or clue about the value of the property, and so they let it pass. And so he was able to take a $50 tax lien and sell it and make over $50,000 on one sell. How would you like to do that? That's the kind of stuff that we want to get you involved in. Imagine if you could have the benefits of all three combined without the drawbacks. And that's really why we focus on foreclosable liens, because it has the ability to buy properties, again, at 5-10 cents on the dollar like a lien, but to get the property immediately like the deed and not have to have any worries about people coming back on you in the next year or two like a redeemable deed, and taking that property back from you. All of these challenges we feel like we've addressed and removed. Helping you find viable lists, check. Researching lists, we can show you some tips where you could actually bubble up the ones to the top and get the cream of the crop. Dealing with counties, we show you how to do that so that you're not dealing with people who are out of the know or just have no clue to what you're asking for. We'll get you right to the heart of the matter, dealing with counties that have the goods and have those types of foreclosable liens that you're looking for. We don't have to worry about competition at auctions because we're not going to auctions. That's not where we're going to focus our energies. Finding good deals and knowing what to buy and length of time to foreclosure, all of these things we've addressed and we've taken care of. I'm not sure what to do after purchase. We have a number of students that come to us and say, okay, I've gotten this far in the process. I have the deed, now what? And we look to help them quickly get rid of that property and realize the profits and move on. And then addressing your fears. We'll talk about that in length, about what might be holding you back, and then look for ways to eliminate that fear. Write that down, guys. Tax lien flipping. Imagine instead of having liens that you're holding on to for year in and year out, getting an 18% return, that you could flip those, and within 3 to 4 months, you're able to flip these properties, and instead of getting 18% annually, you're getting anywhere from 1,000 to 3,000% quarterly. Okay? That's the kind of stuff we're going to show you. This is the mode we want you to be in over and over and over again. This is really what you can set up and do like clockwork and do really a pipeline, if you understand the idea of a sales pipeline, where you're purchasing the liens, you're foreclosing on them, you're profiting, and you're purchasing, foreclosing, and profiting. I had a student that when they started to realize how effective this was, they said, well, geez, I could have 6 or 7, even 8 plates up Spain at one time, right? And absolutely. And the great thing is the reason they can is because they can go to private money lenders and buy as many properties as they can manage. What does this all mean? We feel like this is an easy way to purchase tax liens. You can avoid auctions and competition and working with the county. We are going to handhold you through the entire purchase process and the sales process, and we're going to show you how to foreclose on foreclosable ready tax liens. All that means is bigger profits quicker. We're going to show you again where to find them, what to do with them, and provide all the resources to help you clear that title and sell that property and get the profits. Here's where we look, guys. We have associations. We've gone out and made relationships with banks and institutional investors, hedge funds, corporations that have these types of properties. And instead of going to the county again, we're going to the secondary market and buying these portfolios. The reason they want to get rid of these properties is because they're outside the redemption period. And for them, they're not in the business of real estate. So for them to not get that 18% from the county, that guaranteed rate of return, that's not very lucrative for them. They don't see that as worthwhile. So that's when they look to dump these types of portfolios. That's where we step in, and we become we are buying from those institutional buyers. So in this case, if you go out to some of these websites I showed you where they're doing auctions, you'll see that there's institutional buyers that are buying these up by the millions. They're buying millions of dollars worth of liens and leaving table scraps for the typical lien investor. But that same institution, they sell to a company like us. We can buy their portfolios, and then we can offer those to our students. And that's how you can get access to some very inside products. This is some real-world case studies I wanted to show you. The thing that I wanted to point out here is if you look at the tax lien amount, $11,000 to be able to control $1.3 million, that's pretty unheard of. But if you were to foreclose on all 5 of those properties and get all 5 of those properties, the most your outlay is about $11,000 plus the money it would take to do the notifications. That's maybe another $2,000 to $3,000. But you're spending less than $20,000 to foreclose on $1.3 million. That's pretty cool. And again, if you get all of them, you definitely made your year. If you only got 1 or 2 of them, you can make a killing on just a couple of properties. And that's a year. I mean, look at the kind of uptick you get on those. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's look what actually happened. So it was valued at $286. Okay, so the total amount invested was $5,000 with the lien and the foreclosing on the lien, and then selling it quickly. So sell it for $160. The gain on that was $155,000. With a $5,000 outlay, that's a 3,100% return, and that's not 18% annually. That's 31% within about 3 months. 150 Shelton Street is valued at $270,000. Let's look at that. This was a little not as good as deal because it took $10,000 to foreclose on this property to get the lien and foreclose on it. Sold it for $140,000. So the gain was $130,000, and that's a 1,300% return. Again, that's phenomenal, guys. That's the kind of stuff when we talk about compounding the interest. That's unheard of. But this is the kind of properties you can do when you're buying and foreclosing on liens. This is to give you an idea of sample certificates. If you look over there, $200,000, $195,000 for 17.5% rate of return. Well, when they're not getting that rate of return and we're able to get a property that's worth over $5 million market value, and we can buy the lien for as little as $200,000. Well, not everybody has $200,000 sitting in their bank account, but again, if you could engineer that deal and you go to someone to lend you $200,000 based on the type of property or amount of the property, you foreclose on it, and then even if you sold it for half the price or for a couple $1 million, you're making a killing off a $200,000 investment. And again, that could be using other people's money. Again, just pick it on Port St. Lucie because these are the types of properties that are all over the place out there on those golf courses we talked about. They are not elusive. They're not pink unicorns. They're there. You can pay $5,000 for a property like this. Now, it says it's assessed at $22,000, but that's just because there hasn't been sales in that area for the last 8 years. But now that it's heating back up, if you can go in and pay $5,000 for a property, look at the neighbor right there, $650,000 for the neighbor, and to be able to buy it for $5,000 and own property that you could build on it for a $700,000 home, or you could sell it to a builder in the area for $50,000 to $75,000. That would be very easy to do on that type of a property. Same thing, it's just showing you more of the same. Look at all those properties, but that one right by the neighbor there by the house, almost $1 million home. Again, picking up the land for $6,000, being able to sell it for upwards of $75,000, even $100,000 in this case. That's not unheard of. You might be asking yourself, how do I get started? These are typically the things that we're going to point you and give you information and help you along your way. But first of all, we want to help you set your goals. Understand what your goals are, and then help you with 3 counties in 2 lien states where you can look to go to the best watering holes, to find the list, and then vetting those liens, evaluating the liens, verifying the data, and making a purchase. This is something you guys can do, I feel, within a week or two of setting your sights on these types of properties. You would have the ability to not only find these properties, but be in a position where you would be ready to buy them. So this is what we're offering, guys. We do want you guys to succeed. We do want to give you the tools, and hopefully you'll take a hard look at what we're doing as an alliance and talk to us about what it would take to join us, and we can look and see if that's something that's going to be mutually beneficial for us. If that's the case, great. And if not, at least we're going to leave you with the information you need to help you determine how to make your way forward. You can contact us at info@taxlienalliance.com. If you'll just let us know if you want to schedule a free consultation, we'd be glad to sit down with you and talk to you and get you pointed in the right direction, and then give you the tools to help you get there. So thank you very much for your time. Bryant, do you have anything to offer?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Todd. Great presentation. Just real quick, we actually have a new page to register for that consultation. So if you want us to help you create a plan to help you move toward your goals, go to info.taxlienalliance.com/apply. So here's how it works. You book a time to speak with us, and we'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes. And on that session, we're going to work with you to craft a step-by-step game plan together to help you hit your income goals for the year. Now, whether that's $10,000 a month or you want to get to $100,000 a month, it doesn't matter. The strategies and the principles are all the same. Now, what are we going to charge for this? Nothing. The cost is absolutely free. We'll get on the phone. We'll work with you for about 45 minutes to figure out your exact goals and a game plan to help you hit them. If you want to really accelerate your results by having us guide you step by step through these strategies like our clients have done, we'll go over the details of our mentoring programs and the tuitions that are involved with those. So once again, if you'd like us to help you map out a plan to hit your goals, here's what I want you to do right now. Go to info.taxlienalliance.com/apply. That's info.taxlienalliance.com/apply. Now on that page, you'll see a short form. Just fill that out and hit the submit button at the bottom. We'll email you back to confirm the day and time for your call. We'll get together at that time for about 45 minutes, and I promise that it will be the best 45 minutes you have ever spent working on your business. The processes we take you through on that call is the kind of things that other people are trying to charge hundreds or thousands of dollars for. We're going to get the ball rolling with you for absolutely free. So don't wait. Go ahead and book a call now. Our calendar tends to fill up very, very quickly because this is an offer that's in really high demand, and we don't have a ton of spaces available. So if you're serious and you want to move forward, don't hesitate. Go to info.taxlienalliance.com/apply. Choose the best time for you, and we are more than happy to help you get started on this journey. All right, I think that's it for us. Now, normally, this is the part of the webinar where we would do some Q&A. But look, I just told you how to get on a call and work with us for 45 minutes. So whatever questions you have, if you fit that criteria we talked about earlier, you're absolutely committed to reaching your goals, you're able and willing to invest 6 to 10 hours a week to build your business, you're teachable and accountable, you have an investor mindset. If you feel like you meet all these criteria and you just want to get the ball rolling, go to the link on the screen and let's get started.